All right, good morning. We are live. It is Monday, kicking off the week. I got Tyler here and Curtis, PE turn RE. Morning, fellas.
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah, so it's good to be back from Japan. It's good to get you guys back on. Quickly, maybe what you guys been working on the past couple weeks since haven't been here. So, Curtis, maybe you go first.
Yeah, so the past couple weeks I've been learning to be an agent. While I know like real estate from the investing side, past few weeks I've been digging deep into marketing myself as a new agent, and that's been great. I've been doing some mailings, been doing some social media things, and it's been fun.
Cool. Yeah, I saw that. I saw you post, I think, on Facebook, Instagram, some
Hmm.
mailers you were sending out. So, also, Curtis has a YouTube channel. So, go in the chat. Curtis's channel is there, so go please subscribe. And also Tyler's in front his Instagram page, his First Responder Financial Freedom podcast. But Tyler, what have you been working on the past couple weeks since I've been gone?
Um, doing a little bit of the hard money, private money. That's probably been my main focus. Dialing in our process for Boise. I think we're going to start not ramping it up like to where it used to be, but just trying to get more consistent deal flow out there, and then closing a couple deals out here on the retail side. So a little bit of everything, like like normal. Nothing like too crazy, but it's become more steady, which is nice. It's been a while.
All right, cool. Well, I think both of you kind of have some stuff you maybe want to talk about. We're gonna dig into. I had to clarify with Curtis. We're gonna do the BBB, not the big beautiful booties, but it's the big beautiful bill, right? We're gonna kind of talk about it, maybe how it's gonna impact investors, maybe primarily on the real estate side. But Tyler, what are you seeing maybe from because like you said, you're doing lending, private money lending. But for you, what's your thoughts on the bill that was passed?
So, I mean, just like looking over it this weekend a little bit because I knew we were going to talk about this. And in years prior, like during Trump's first term, cost segregation was something that was like a hot button topic. If you were at any real estate mastermind during that first time period during his first term, everybody was talking about it, and it was hugely beneficial because when you buy residential real estate, you normally can depreciate it over 27 years. With the way this is going to work now and the way it's worked in the past, is you can accelerate a lot of that stuff and then write off a good portion of it in that first year. So I was buying rentals during that time period and writing $150,000 off against my income. And it doesn't take, a genius or anything above a truck fireman to figure out that, hey, that's a huge thing. So, I mean, I love that. I was reading this morning too. I'm not big into Airbnbs, but I could see Airbnbs really benefiting from this because that's active income. So if you are taking that active income and you can depreciate it, you can write off against active income. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a tax professional, so don't quote me on any of this, but it looks to me like that would be a huge play is if people are already doing Airbnbs. I think you can benefit from that. And then pass through income, right? I think S corp 20% discount on income is huge. So those three things for me are big. I know last time it happened, like I said, it was like the talk of the town, and it worked. Like nobody really knew, oh, is this going to happen? And it, I know me personally, it motivated me to buy more rentals because I'm going to get a rental property and I'm going to get a huge write off and shelter a lot of income.
Now, those all sound great there, Tyler. Were there any cons that you had seen?
I would say the con is obviously we don't all, or I personally, I'll speak for myself, we don't all think into the future, right? So even though you are depreciating that stuff, you're going to have to pay the piper at some point. It's not like it's you write it off and then, oh, I'm never going to have to pay taxes on it. That would be nice. So I think that's one thing is people not understanding, hey, at some point you will have to do this. The one thing I haven't thought through and I haven't asked is, can I do all of this and then 1031 into a property, and then does that erase all of the write-offs I have and things like that? So that would be the one con that I do see. I'm sure there's more, but the biggest one for me is remembering, hey, we always say you can kick the can down the road, and I think my goal is to kick it down as far as possible until you pass away. Oh, estate the estate tax went up to 15 million bucks, right? So kick it down to, and then if you have it structured properly, your family won't have to pay a lot of that. So it will kind of go with you as you pass away.
Yeah. Hopefully, there's a lot of time between now and when we pass away,
Yeah,
so we all know tax things can always change.
absolutely.
I just want to say what's up to Aaron. Aaron's tuning in from Instagram. He said he's here for the bald guy. So believe he's here for you, Tyler. Another part of the first responder financial freedom. So go check them out on their podcast and YouTube. Say morning to Flavio, who's here. Got Jim, Casey's here. So thanks for tuning in. So like Curtis, so for you, did you kind of get an idea what the bill may help you with from the investing side? And like you said, even like getting your license, right? Is there any benefits from that standpoint?
I thought there were some interesting things on what was also in the bill, not necessarily directly tied to the real estate per se, but there was a piece in there about student loan like programs, and that actually I think could affect a lot of like first time like home buyers because now all of a sudden a program that they think they can qualify for, well, like the save, that might be adjusted. Their payments might have to resume a little earlier than they thought. Their payments might be a little bit higher than they thought, which affects their buying power at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, how like I guess the one thing I mean, there's some things I got off like Chat GPT and some other people's Instagram posts, but like, how do you guys navigate all of it? Because right, like the bill is so big, right? So how do you guys determine like how it's going to impact you, or you kind of just wait till your tax advisor kind of gives you some kind of blueprint to follow in a sense? Like, how do you guys navigate that, Tyler?
Well, it's funny, you already mentioned it. So I've been using ChatGPT and other AI a lot more recently. So I'm just getting better at I guess, prompting. I don't even know if that's the correct word for what I'm about to say, but what I've been doing is I am a 45-year-old full-time real estate professional who, this is what I typed in this weekend, who wholesales, flips, and buys rentals. What are the most impactful portions of this bill? And what are the biggest changes from years prior? And then it went over a bunch of those things. And I would say not to wait for real estate professional or for your tax professional, and maybe, be proactive and see if they're up to date on it. And if they're not, maybe ask them to get up to date. And if they're not up to date, maybe it's time to find a new tax person. I've had a bad experience before where I thought the person was a professional in our arena, and it ended up not going very well. So, that's a big one. But for me, yeah, just reading up on it. I love AI. I'm trying to get better at prompting it, pulling it out. But perfect example, it had already acted like there was no vote and that the bill had not passed. And I was like, well, wait a minute. The bill passed July 4th, 2025. And it said, oh, you're right. Correction. So people who use this as like the end all be all, remember, I know for me, I don't know what your guys' experience is, but ChatGPT definitely makes mistakes, and I'm getting better at catching them now. And then I'll ask the same question, like, "Are you sure? Are you sure this is right?" And sometimes it's like, "Oh, you know what? You're right. This is not correct."
Before I like Curtis, do you use ChatGPT also? Because I think your mailer, do
Yeah.
you?
Oh, yeah. I use it every day for all kinds of stuff. Um, Personal, business, teaching. I have so many conversations in that thing.
Do you use it, Mark?
Yeah, I use it for a lot of stuff, especially making it easier to do these live streams. A lot of times I just save, I put in whatever prompt for, let's say, um, these live streams, like various titles, caption descriptions, for YouTube live stream, with hashtags that are gonna engage an audience, attract new followers, blah, blah, blah. And then that's the save part of it. And then when I want to use it, I just tell Chat GPT, can I use my saved live stream prompt based on this is going to be the main topic for this segment? And then
Mhm.
it kind of spits everything on, and it gives me various titles, captions. And the same thing with my reels, like I have a saved social media prompt. and then like usually I copy the transcript from the shorts, and I say use this transcript, and my saved social media prompt, and it's fit for, and it comes out with stuff for Instagram, X, YouTube. So and then it spits out different titles, hashtags, the
Yep.
descriptions, and I just copy and paste. And a lot of times, if I really looked into it, there's probably some stuff that I probably should change in the description in a sense. Like it might, but I don't have the time to go in that detail. So a lot of times, if you read the descriptions, I think like Flavio might have messaged me one time, like it said something about $7,000 or something like that, and it might have heard the person incorrectly a little bit in the reel. So, but for the most part, yeah, ChatGPT. I've been playing with Grok 4. But for me, what I noticed, so I have an iPhone, but I also have a Galaxy phone for work. But I noticed the iPhone, it cuts me off when I try to do voice. When I try to do voice,
On Grok.
and yeah, and prompt it in, it seems to cut me off quickly and start prompting or start spitting out the response. And it might be on the iPhone because when I do it on the my Android, it works. So
Oh,
I don't know if it's something in the softwares right now, but for some reason in Grok 4, it doesn't always let me finish what I'm trying to prompt in the message.
that's like it, somebody just mentioned and ask it what your communication style is. I feel like the more I use voice for Chat GPT, I feel like the better stuff starts getting spit out, maybe because I'm just talking like I normally would, that the information I get out is better. One thing real quick too, that's kind of off topic, but it's still in real estate. If you guys ever have anything around the house that like breaks and you're troubleshooting, my AC was like toast. So 2 weekends ago, I have a home warranty and I was trying to get somebody out and it was like, oh, it's 4 days. So I literally used my Chat GPT and just started taking pictures and had it troubleshoot with me. And it took me the whole way through the process. And I would just update it with new pictures and I fixed it. So if anybody has, I mean, dude, it's crazy. Like it's scary in some sense. Like, hey, it's like how powerful it is, but I can see there's so many. But that was just off topic. It was funny. I'm like, well, I use it for everything else every single day. Why don't I at least just try it and see? Because I know it has more information than me. And yeah, that was
Do you guys
interesting.
pay for the premium or the plus option?
Yeah, I do for sure. You guys ever listen to All In podcast?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yesterday, I listened to yesterday, and it was funny. He's like, I feel like every single
Yeah.
person should be allotting $150 a month to AI. There, and he was saying that there's no way that you would never get any that you would not get any return on it. So I use the Chat GPT. There's another one. Have you guys heard of Manus? So Manus is something I just heard last week, and I honestly the only thing I've seen is it helped me create a website, but I haven't dug deep into it at all. So that was something that somebody, I think Nathan Brooks, mentioned it. So I took a look at that. Tyler, do you want me to answer that question
Yeah, I just want
or
to.
wait?
Aaron is a. I want to say what's up to Ali on Instagram, and Aaron is tuning in from the Instagram side. Also, he's using the first responder page, but he says he used Chat GPT for a wedding he officiated, and then he also says, yeah, I guess he noticed for the iPhone on the Grok 4, once you pause for a little bit, or he says 2 seconds, yeah, it kind of cuts you off and it
It cuts out.
starts. But yeah, so I don't know if that's something they're working on, one of the bugs they're fixing, but of course, people are gonna, oh, see, iPhone, Galaxies or Androids are better and whatnot. So um let's see. Yeah, yeah, the question is, oh, Tyler, oh, Flavio's asking us. So Tyler, as a hard money lender, how do you qualify a borrower?
So when I'm doing hard money, it's all asset based. So I'm looking at the property that you're purchasing, what I think the ARV is, what your purchase price is, your rehab budget, and then things like that, and then what kind of assets or reserves you have. But it's not like on the conventional FHA VAA side, it's a whole different process. We're looking at your employment, your income, all these things. Hard money is basically based on the asset. So I hope that answers your question. But I'm not as worried about things that I would normally be on the conventional side.
Okay.
Do more experienced investors get a better rate, a lower percentage down?
Yeah, they do. It varies, right? So like I'm just starting this. Like I've done this. I've done lending for like 20 years. The hard money I've done in the last few years, but more so like onesie twosies. Now that I'm being more professional with it, yeah, I'm trying to entice those experienced investors by a slightly lower rate. The biggest thing is I may go a little bit higher on their loan to cost or loan to value because I know they're not going to get themselves into trouble. I think that's where I would adjust the most. Like I'll allow them to push like maybe their rehab budget or total loan amount more so than a brand new investor. But
Mm.
the rates are pretty close. Like I'm anywhere from 11 to 12% on the rate, and then 1.5 to 2.5 points on the origination. Which it's not like a Kiavi or an Easy Street or a Lima One Capital, but it's close enough to where I'm competitive, and then I can offer other things like speed to close and stuff like that.
Before let's hold on. There was some questions I saw. So Lynn's tuning in. Lynn is here on Saturday on a live stream. That was a good one about minimalizing, and that's how the path to getting out of the rat race. If you can get rid of some waste, and a lot of us are kind of stuck because we, like I feel like I bought too big of a home, a primary residence, and things like that. Cody's here. Lynn says for anybody that is on the SAVE program, interest starts
Mhm.
accruing August 1st. So that's saving on a valuable education. Um, and there is no longer subsidized loans for undergraduates, only subsidies. Okay. Late start. Well, ChatGPT. Oh, Sarah's here. I've never seen Sarah before. So good morning. She says with NACA mortgage, there is no closing costs, no PMI or fees. Interest rate is fixed and below prime. Let's see.
Tyler, have you done loans on that one before?
No, I haven't, and so I was gonna look it up afterwards. A lot of this stuff is usually, well, there's two things. It's income based, and I'm doing mostly first responders, so a lot of them don't qualify. And then two, I'd have to look at it, but a lot of the programs are great for people who they could be great regardless. Most of the programs that I'm looking at that offer benefits, like when people call me, they're asking about first responder programs. There's definitely first
Mm.
responder programs. The issue is the rates are usually higher, things like that, in order to compensate what they're giving for you. So I have to look it up. I don't want to even pretend that I know anything about the program, but no, I have not done anything with that.
Interesting. Yeah, we in Washington just got this awesome program. It's the Covenant Home Ownership Program, where the state of Washington, if your family has history here back pre 1968, then Washington State will actually give you up to 20% down or $150,000 for down payment with no interest.
That's it. Is it forgivable? Like, does it ever go away, or do they just have like a second on your property?
There it's a a second,
Oh, awesome.
and if at the time of the purchase you're under 80% AMI, then it's forgivable in 5 years.
Okay, so see, yeah, that's huge, and that's where I run into the problem with a lot of my clients is most firemen are going to be above 80% of the AMI. I know for a while
Mhm.
they were doing 100%, so that's where a lot of them get disqualified.
Yeah, this is the second year of the program, and they just revamped it. So I'm intrigued if in year three they raise the AMI again.
Okay, to
Mhm.
to get more people in the program.
Yeah, because to qualify for the 150,000, they raised it from 100% AMI to 120%. But to make it forgivable, you still have to be at the 80.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. I don't know if you guys want to touch on this or dig into it deeper, but JHOR729 says we're the richest country in the history of the world. We don't need an endless budget. We need the rich to pay their share like they did in the 1950s. And I guess my quick answer is to some extent, yes, I agree. The rich should be paying more. At the same time, though, I think part of it is how is it being spent, right? So I think maybe the rich would be fine with paying a little bit more taxes or fair taxes or however you want to put it, but a lot of it is their money, where is it going or how is it being spent? And I think that's the biggest issue, right? Is our government using the money properly or effectively, more efficiently. And if we can correct that, then I think more people would be a little bit easier or feel a lot better about paying a little bit more in taxes, right? So Flavio says in the future, I like to lending in Washington.
I'm licensed in Washington, but I don't do hard money in Washington.
Okay. Let's see. Sarah says NACA loan is not income based. So I believe she's referring to the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. It's a nonprofit organization helping low to moderate income individuals. Hugo's here. Stay winning pod. What's up, man? Shoes. I haven't. Your stuff don't pop up on my feed anymore, but I think you're killing it out there. So we got to get you back on, man. I need a crypto person on here. Stay winning says MAGA, money accounts for growth and advancement. Oh, I like that one. Yeah, I might have to make a hat for that. Yeah, man, we'll get you're right there. We'll do a podcast, man. I'll reach out to you, man. Oh, yeah, Sarah just confirmed what I just Um, so Hugo says, "Yep, be the rich is better than tax the rich." Texas is looking at eliminating. Let's see what happens. Yeah, they're looking at a lot of places. I think Pennsylvania is also one of the states looking at eliminating property taxes. I know Florida has mentioned it. I think there was 5 states overall.
California is too. They just SB 296 is going through, and that's what that is for. It's for 100% disabled vets to have a property tax exemption. It's kind of cool. I do a lot of VA loans, so I've been following it closely. I've actually been watching a lot of the process online because you can watch, all of the committee meetings and stuff like that. So I think it's huge. I 100% think veterans, especially if they're 100% disabled, should not be paying property taxes. The actual hit to the economy is very minimal, but the benefit to those veterans is massive. So I'm a huge proponent of that.
Aaron from Instagram side also says, Tyler, how'd that lender guru class work out?
Lender guru.
I don't know if he's being serious or he's making a wise ass response.
Well, with Aaron, there's about
that's what I'm
5%
saying. I'm
chance
not
serious. I don't even know how to answer that, Aaron. I'm just glad you're awake and participating. It's 11:30. I know that you're off on maternity leave.
Yeah, that's I keep trying to throwing it out there for Aaron to come back on. He just has a newborn, so he has 2 young kids, so he is kind of his hands full right now. So he's definitely trying to get back on, but the times don't usually work out for it. Oh, Aaron says he's serious.
I don't understand what he's asking me. Then I'll text him right now.
So Hugo also says, surprisingly, California is really good when it comes to property taxes. The rich will not vote to tax themselves more. So yeah, Aaron says baby is asleep in his lap. So yeah, a couple of things that like I said, ChatGPT brought up when I was kind of looking up the big beautiful bill, or and it's talking about salt cap. So do your own research. Like I said,
Yep.
do your own confirmation. We touched on bonus depreciation. It says Section 179 expansion, deduct more upfront for office equipment improvements, etc. Improved interest deduction, EBITDA rule, deduct more interest on leveraged properties. PMI deduction reinstated. SALT cap raised to 40K, deduct more in high tax state like New York, California, and New Jersey. I think we talked. So we had a live school call with Bob Langworthy of Maine Bean Counters, and he kind of touched on this also. But the estate and gift exemption was raised, and it helps with long-term wealth and legacy planning. And I think Zuber also touched on that on the Daily Financial News this morning. I believe, I could be wrong, 13 or 15 million now, or something.
It's 15 million.
Yeah.
I was just looking it up right now. I had all my notes. It's
all right.
Yeah, which I think is kind of crazy because I actually saw on Facebook this meme saying like basically, when you go to apply for a loan, it says if you're about to get a gift from your family. Well, there's a lot of people that they just laugh at that. They're like, my family's not going to give me any money, right? And then we're over here talking about the max gift is 15 million. So I think it's kind of like humorous.
It
the way
is.
that people like focus on that piece.
It is, but you look at the it says like helps with long-term wealth and legacy planning, right? So
Hmm.
that's the thing. I think I saw there might somebody did a reel or Instagram. They was talking about if you leave your kids or whatnot with bills and not assets, right? You're kind
Hmm.
of setting them up for failure in a sense, right? So that's kind of the same extent, and I think that's what we're all trying to do, right? We're trying to build stuff for our current situations. We're also planning, and I know Dion does it a little bit differently, but he like he's not really planning for generational wealth, but he's like at the end of the day, my kids are going to still end up with whatever $1 million of real estate or whatnot, right? So
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it's hoping that we can still leave stuff for our kids and whatnot. Let's see. It says REIT expansion. If investing to a REIT, REITs can now own more operating businesses. Anything else? I mean, there's some other stuff. Do you guys have stuff you want to bring up on the bill or other stuff you researched?
I was just looking it up right now. Go ahead, Curtis. Have you got
You
anything?
got anything, Curtis? I got stuff for fix and flip investors that came up with.
Oh yeah, well, what did the fix and flip one say?
It does talk about benefits, 100% bonus depreciation, the Section 179. Basically, a lot of the same. The salt cap helps offset property taxes on flips in high cost markets. PMI deduction, so it says helpful if you're carrying higher loan to value loans during the flip. Um,
Mm-hmm. Now, Mark, you were saying that you think Pennsylvania is going to eliminate property tax too, or they're talking about it.
they're talking about it. I know there was like 5 states. I know, but I think the one thing it'll probably be more for primary residence, right, or real estate.
Hmm.
So I don't think it'll help much for investors. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think most of this is going to be impacting like primary home ownership, right? So, but still, it's good to see that that's the direction that people are looking. I mean, I'm hoping that the talks of eliminating property taxes completely is something that um, for everywhere. But we'll see what happens, and there's always a lot of talk, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued on what they're going to do because those funds were going somewhere, regardless of how you think they were being used. They were going. So I'm curious where that deficit will come up.
Well, I think that's so one way to look at it, right, is of course the states or whatnot are trying to get revenue, right? And
Yeah.
property taxes is one way. So like especially like Hawaii, California, like I say in New York, when you limit construction or you limit
Hmm.
housing, right? These other houses appreciating their asset values going up, because you have a lack of supply. So now property values are going up, and now people are paying more property taxes, right? So it's more
Hmm.
revenue for the states also, right? So there's different ways to look at it. So I think part of it is kind of the states, they know what they're doing, right? They're trying to increase revenue, so they're fine with property values going up because they're taking a cut from it, right? But I wish overall, like the saying, right? We're gonna own nothing in a sense, right? So even though you have a paid off property and you have property taxes to still pay, right? And it's like, is it really your property at the end of the day, right? So hopefully, down the road, maybe there is a way to eliminate property taxes, but
So I
well,
was thinking about this the other day. So how would it be like? I don't know why I thought of it, but I was thinking about this. Like, it would be kind of cool if you had the option. Like, let's say, hey, you're 50 and you own this property, and let's say your property taxes are like 7 grand a year, and you're like, hey, you got a $25,000 or $30,000 buyout, and you don't ever have to pay property taxes again on that property as long as you don't leave, or something like that, to where they get tax revenue up front, and then you don't have to pay for the rest of the time that you live there. I don't know. I mean, to me, I was like, oh, well, if I was younger and I could just dump some money into it and then, truly own it, like some kind of exemption, I think that would be cool, but I don't know if they would do that. And I think what a lot of people would say, well, that only favors people who are wealthy or in a higher income bracket, and then do they really need that benefit? I think that's where the argument would be. But I was thinking it would be kind of cool to be able to prepay and get a discount, right? Like, hey, here's
Hmm.
$25,000, no more property taxes.
Yeah, and then the reason that I asked that is because I'm still teaching in the schools, and that's allegedly where a lot of the funds go from property taxes into schools. So it's like, okay, well, where is the funds going to come from if we are like rid of that?
Well,
Right.
so that's the other side too, right?
Yeah.
Like they like a lot, well, like Hawaii, I can talk on, but like they're saying the education system, right? The public school system, the scores are not improving. It's probably getting worse. So it's like, yeah, we're putting money into these programs, but the
Hmm.
results aren't showing up, right? So I think that's what's upsetting a lot of people. Is like I'm constantly putting more money in, but the results aren't showing that, right? So that is the struggle. But Tyler, on California though, isn't that somewhat of the issue? Because you guys have like your guys, it's property taxes, right? Where it doesn't, if someone in the family, right, inherits the property, right, it doesn't change if they're still living or something to that extent, right? So
Yeah, they had like different propositions, but they got away with some of those too, right? Like it was like a one-time transfer from parent to child and things like that, which essentially allowed, people to inherit their parents or grandparents' property tax basis when they inherit the property, because for most of us, that's where most of our wealth resides. And then they did away with it, I think, to now encourage people to I don't know. I mean, well, to get more revenue, obviously, right? That's why they did it. So yeah, that's something that's changed. That when I first started, that it was not that way, but it'll be interesting to see what California does on that, because I think when I saw that, I thought I was not a big fan. Yeah, Prop 13.
yeah, so Curtis, Hugo says Department of Education is gone. So Curtis brings up a good point too. Late start wealth pensions sometimes offer buyout. Same concept in reverse. Pay big lump today. Risk is you have to sell or pass away. Yep. Yeah. So I don't know, Tyler. Did you have that option when for your pension from the fire? Were you able to take a
Well,
lump sum or a bigger
I
portion up front?
I didn't even ask, because I was a fan of getting payments monthly for the rest of my life. And the Yeah, I just to me, it's like, I always think of, like, like big contracts or whatever. You ever get big chunk money, there's a chance, even if you have the best of intentions and you're not being wasteful, you're trying to make a good investment, that you piss it all away or something goes bad. And for me, it was, okay, I'm gonna get X amount of dollars for the rest of my life. And because I got hurt, like 95% of it is not taxable anyways. So I just decided to take that. I mean, you could, I just always worry about, you take a lump sum and something happens and then it's gone. And I wouldn't want to be in my mid 50s or 60s or 70s and need to go get a full-time job again, when I could just learn how to live, like worst case scenario, if I didn't work outside of my pension, learn how to live off that, adjust my lifestyle and be comfortable. Cause most of those things, you're going to live comfortably as long as you're not outside of your means, I would think.
So
Would you do it, Mark?
you know, I don't I, like I've never looked or asked the question specifically to the retirement system yet. I know you do have an option to take. I don't know how much of it is upfront. I believe, just to my understanding, yeah, there are different options, but you could take a bigger portion up front. And I think you still can receive monthly payments. It's just going to be much, it's going to be reduced
Okay.
based on the, I think that, like I said, I haven't completely checked on that. So that was my initial thought. I was probably going to take a certain portion, a bigger chunk up front to, hopefully invest or whatnot, and then still have some sort of monthly
So that
income.
makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, I kind of feel like it's almost like that having a paid off property, right? And there's no right way or wrong way to look at it, right? Some people just want that paid off property, that kind of ace in the hole where they know if shit hits the fan, they do have this paid off property in a sense, with maybe they're just responsible for the property taxes and whatnot, but they have this paid off property that's generating a certain amount of rental income or whatnot. So I kind of look at the pension a little bit that way. Is if I have a certain amount from my real estate portfolio and dividends and whatnot on that side, maybe I'll just leave the pension as is so that I have this higher amount of guaranteed monthly income in a sense. So that's kind of what I'm looking at too. So as long as my portfolio is at a certain point, when I do step away, then that's going to kind of be what it is. Sarah does bring up a flip side to the, like we're talking about the school also, but while school outcomes are not going up, if schools shuttered the doors, bored kids running around the neighborhood would increase crime and drop property values. So yeah, I think I think on that point, I think that's always going to be the struggle when we talk about policies and politics and whatnot. Is it just kind of depends, where you're at on the field, right? Everyone, like this policy may not impact you very much where you're sitting on the field, but it's going to benefit someone here. And I think we're going to dig into that a little bit later about like home ownership for millennials and Gen Z and whatnot. So it's hard, because these politicians a lot of times they're trying to please a lot of different people, right? And it's not going to
Mhm.
always help everyone. So I think that's why we're doing what we're doing too, is we're trying to help people realize that the best thing you can do is focus on your own situation and improve that. So hopefully that a lot of these policies or decisions that are being made aren't going to really impact you very much to where you're going to be relying on someone else to help you in retirement and whatnot. Is Sarah says, is Social Security at risk or is it going to stay intact? Ooh, you guys want to dig into this? Curtis, you have a thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't been alive as long as you guys
Well,
have,
that
but
okay, that's why. So let's put that in reference to. So you are a lot younger. So I
yeah.
think so. To from your standpoint, what's your thoughts on Social Security?
So for as long as I can remember, folks have always been saying, "Oh, it may or may not be there by the time that I get that age." And so I think regardless of what the bill is talking about, that's always been the sentiment or the feeling is it's nice for the older people, but it may or may not be there even for me. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Tyler, you're a little bit younger than me, but you are older than
Yeah.
Curtis. So what is your thoughts on it?
I don't know, and I think I was just thinking when Curtis was talking too, is that that's why we started our podcast. That's why you're doing your podcast. That's why a lot of us are doing it. Is I look at it this way: if it's still there when I'm of that age, then it's a benefit. But can I rely on that for my financial security? I don't think anybody should do that. I mean, it does. It's the same thing for pensions, though, and that has always been my big belief. Is Curtis? I'm assuming you're an educator. You're a pensioned employee too, right? So all three of us, way back in the day, pensions were like the gold standard. They're still awesome, but a lot more people had pensions, and then everybody thought, well, there's no way that pensions are going to go away. Now pensions are much less common, and I always look at like Les Sarah is my pension, so it's Los Angeles counties. They're independent of like a CalPERS, which is huge, and they're a little bit more stable. But I have always thought, even when I was still working, is I need to act like it's not going to be there, because if it does happen when I'm again 55, 60, I'm in big trouble. It's not like you can go be a fireman at 75 years old unless you want to DFO in the middle of a fire ground or something. But like so I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think
Mhm.
the chances are not great, but the more I think about it, Mark, we're not that far away from being able to qualify, which is crazy.
Well, so that on that standpoint too, also almost look like you're talking about the pension raise, almost like gives me another reason to why I'd rather just take that lump sum up front. And if I have the skill set to make that money grow, right, then at least I'm getting it up front, and I'm not, like you're saying, we're not relying on someone else to make sure that this pension is funded or Social Security is funded, right? So yeah, I think that's the biggest concern for me, and that's like I said, that is really why I've gone down this path. Is like you said, the pension was like the gold standard. I still see a lot of guys, okay, if I do my 25 or 30 years, if I work this overtime, I plan my high three, and I sell back my leave and all this, and they start
Yep.
calculating that way, and it's like you put so much effort into looking at that, right, trying to build this formula and working 30 years. Well, if you just did a few different things different earlier in your career, you could probably be able to walk away at 10, 15 years. And if you want to do 25, 30, then great, but
Mhm.
you're giving yourself that option, right? So But yeah, I think like you said, it's just weird that I mean I'm older than you guys, so Social Security is a lot closer for me, as far as something I got to start considering or looking at. And I actually looked at it about a couple months ago, what my estimated payment would be. I think because yeah, so there was something that changed too, right? There was a that passed for it's for
Yep.
first responders, right? Or was it
Yeah.
overall that now we can receive the Social Security payments from the previous employments and whatnot, right? Or whatever. I
Yeah,
don't know if
you
I'm
have to
saying it the
meet
right.
so many
Yeah.
quarters, and yeah, did you have enough quarters to do it?
Um, Based on what I saw when I went onto the site and I logged in, so I think I'll get like 1,200 or something. That would be my Social Security at whatever 62. Um,
Which Mark? So are you going to take it next year or?
I'm not taking it next year. But so on that point though, I'm not that close to it. But um,
He kept a straight face for a long time too. It was
well, I was
pretty.
drinking coffee. I didn't want to spit it on the
Oh,
screen. But I my plan is to probably leave the firehouse next year. That is my plan as of now. But for me, the pension or retirement system I'm on, I wouldn't start collecting to 55. So I would have like a 5-year gap in between there to collect. So it's I'll probably be walking away maybe earlier than I should. I guess from a security standpoint, I guess in a sense. But I think that's the hardest part, right? Is most people are probably working a couple more years than they should in a sense, right? Or they need to. So for me, yeah, I am that is the plan as of right now. My plan is to step away at the end of next year. Definitely being out what 5 months now, waiting for shoulder surgery. So I'm gonna have that Monday next week, and I'll still be out probably a few more months after that. It really just opened my eyes to kind of what I'm able to do not working and enjoying this type of stuff. And even, I went to North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee I was there for like a month. I just got back from Japan. I was in Japan for a couple of weeks with my son for school. And those are the kind of things I want to do more. And it just, even like going to Japan, I saw my son, I felt like in 2 weeks, I talked about this on Saturday, but I felt like I just saw him grow up. Like it's weird. It's like paying, he in Hawaii, he rarely would try to, make an effort to go pay for his snacks or, I don't know what it is, but in like Japan, he's like, yeah, he's taking the yen out and he's paying for his snacks and he's trying to communicate, trying to, even like the rail, like catching the subways and stuff. He's trying to figure out where we got to go, what ticket to buy. And it was just great to see him like take on that responsibility. So those are the kind of things I want to do more. So stepping away next year, I think is the plan, and taking more trips and traveling more and whatnot. So um,
Nice, Mark. By the time you go back to work, you'll be leaving work for good.
trust me, I'm trying to figure out ways to I know this is live, but we'll see how long my rehab takes. But late start. Well, hey, oh, Jen's here. Jen was on Saturday. So Jen, that was a while. We kind of got off topic on Saturday, but like I said, they were talking about getting rid of waste and cutting back on spending in a sense to actually increase your living, right, to cut back on things and whatnot. But they were talking about like Backstreet Boys tickets and all this and concerts and whatnot. But late start wealth says take the lump sum, divide it into 3 buckets, treat whole thing as a paycheck generator. Yeah, yeah. Late start wealth next year. What is he talking? Is he uh, what is, I don't know I don't know if he's saying I can't do it, or he's what. So if you can clarify late start wealth if you're still here. Let's see. What else? Is there any other questions I skipped over? Let's see.
in
Sarah's.
that 5 years, while you're looking it up, in that 5 years that you're leaving earlier than you expected to, like this is the way my brain works. With that Social Security changing, it's like, would would you staying 5 years net you more than $1,200 a month? And then if not, no, it's like I look at it this way. You got 5 years of your life, which, dude, you can't put a price on that for anything, right? Like, no way. Especially too, like I have guys that still check in on, and one of them just texted me a picture of one of my engineers on my probationary year. Dude's in hospice, which happens a lot with firemen and cancer, and he enjoyed like 2 or 3 years of retirement. And then the same guy, his captain, same thing. And I'm like, well, 5 years, even if you don't make up that $1,200, it's like, if you can get up every morning and do what you want to do every single day, like that's all that really matters, right? Like, you don't, and you're going to make up for it and all this stuff too. So it's interesting to think that 5 years of your life, that's a lot, right? Because you said 5 years early, Mark.
Yeah. Well,
That's a
yeah.
lot.
So I mean,
A lot of life to live.
exactly. So like even like just going to Japan, right? You're in this new country and you're walking everywhere. You're walking all over the place, and you're trying to hurry up to catch the rail or just catch the subway. And it's like I can't imagine people, in their 60s or whatnot, trying
Trying to
to
do that.
travel or do these type of things or have as much enjoyment, right? So I think that's part of it too, right? Even, like you're saying, yeah, it's maybe 5 years or a couple years maybe sooner than I should in a sense, but it's like, man, all this enjoyment, like you can't put a price on that, right? You're able to. So on this, like I said, we're going off topic now, but even like for now, my brain is like, okay, I want to have like a, so I take like a normal suitcase and all that, and then like in Japan it's like, shit, this is a pain in the ass. Like we caught the bullet train from Osaka to Fukuoka, and it's like, I mean, it's not a pain, I should say, but it's like it's bulkier, right? A regular suitcase, right? So it's like you're sitting on the bullet train, and if you don't get a reserved seat, you're kind of stuck with your luggage, and you're kind of fit in these chairs. So Curtis would never fit in one of those chairs. No, I'm just but I'm like, hey, I want to just travel minimalist, right? Like now I just want to have this smaller. I just want to travel with a carry on and maybe a backpack, and then just pick up, and it just makes being more mobile, right? And that's kind of where my head's at now. So I'm trying to look up like, hey, what's the best carry on suitcase type of bag to have where you can pack enough and whatnot. So that's kind of where my head's at now after taking this trip to Japan. Um, Jen, so late start. Well, was talking about, I guess, Curtis's joke about me taking Social Security next year. And Jen, she says, we will be rooting for you to be able to walk away next year and making trouble every day on YouTube. Yeah, well, you are pretty good at that too, Jen. So I wouldn't. Hey, Josh is here. So Josh was on a couple weeks ago with Curtis, and who else was on? Denzel, right? Denzel, I think, was
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Josh, hopefully you resolve some of those maybe questions you had. I know you were thinking about getting your next property. So hopefully you kind of got your questions answered on the live stream. Um, Flavio, we need to start thinking about retiring tomorrow. Life is short. Yeah.
I'm
Old guy.
61 and
Yeah, he's
still
61
walking.
and can yeah, that's the thing I think people don't realize, right? And it's just like you're like, just I don't know about you, Ty, but for me, from 40 to now, just you don't think 8, 9 years at 40 years old makes that much of it, but I can tremendously tell the difference in my energy and activity levels and whatnot. So, um,
100%. I gotta take a nap after this, anyways. No, no, but seriously though, I see the one thing I do notice, especially with firemen, is when the guys that stay after 55 and go to like 60 or 62, to old guy REI's point. I'm specifically just talking about firemen because I know you can be extremely productive, but those guys, I feel like their age, the acceleration that happens those last couple of years is just huge. I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. And to your point, Mark, I mean, doing little things like overhaul and stuff when you're 30 versus like in your mid 40s and you're just, dude, there's very few guys I look at. I'm like, that guy is still killing it at 60 when we're on doing overhaul and
yeah,
cleanup, right?
yeah.
Very
No,
few. And
and
they're like revered. They're like, that dude's a legend.
I mean, I'm sure there's there's these unique individual outliers
Yeah.
that can still do it, but for the majority, even if you still are active, even if you still work out, it's just like father time. And Curtis, probably even from like sports, right?
Oh yeah.
Guys are still active, they're still working out, but their body has just aged and it's just not the same. And that's why even in like football, or even sports, you see individuals walking away earlier in their careers now, right? Like back before, they weren't making as much money possibly, so they were working until their body completely broke down, and now they're paying for it in retirement, right? But you see a lot of these younger individuals now, they put in like maybe 6-8 years in a good career, and then they walk away already because they want to be able to walk in a
To
sense,
walk.
right? They don't want
Patrick
all these.
Willis.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
That was one
even
of my favorite players. Like, and dude, he retired early. People are like, he's stupid, he's crazy. It's like, no, the dude wants to walk normally and like be able to chase his kids around and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think
uh
Dion talks about you know, like your go-go years, your slow-go years, then you have your no-go years, right? And and the earlier you can like retire, the more go-go years and you have.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. But you're right, Mark. I mean, yeah, it's funny how that stuff changes. And I just think people think differently now too, right? Curtis is like,
Mhm.
before it's like, oh, back to pensions. I'm going to work until I'm 55 or 60, retire and have a pension for the rest of my life. But to your point, do you want to be in your 70s catching a bullet train in Japan when you could have done those things in your early 50s and maybe sacrifice a little bit of income on that end, but like life experience, travel, hanging out with your son? Like, I'm sure people did think that way. I just don't maybe think there weren't as many options and the discussions were different, right? Because
Mhm.
I don't know, a lot of this stuff is changing. Like, I don't know how
Yeah.
much yeah. So I think it's interesting to see the change.
Yeah, also with that, I've been having some talks with friends because I'm trying to get more of my friends on the home buying journey. And a lot of them are like, hey, we're in our 20s still. They're trying to experience as much life as possible. And that's something that you kind of got to balance too.
100%.
yeah, Josh says my body's looking pretty good for 51. He's running a 10K at a pace of 8 minutes and 34 seconds. So awesome,
Nice.
man.
Wow, that's pretty good.
See, yeah, so Flavio says, Curtis, you're a kid next to us. Sarah says, my son is starting college. He is going to need to take out some loans. Are you aware of the changes due to the big, beautiful bill? And what do you need to know? You guys have any thoughts on that? Or did Tyler did any of
I
your
don't, but
research?
Curtis said he looked it up, right?
Yeah, I did look it up for people that already have them because I'm in that boat. And Lynn had mentioned something earlier in the chat
Yeah, the terminating of the save plan for the um
for new
yeah.
loans, right? Yeah, and so you may want to see what type of loan he's going to have to get, if it's subsidized or unsubsidized or things like that. I don't remember off the top of my head because mine are already in place.
Yeah, I think for me, to my understanding, the biggest thing is they're going to um I don't know if responsibility is the right way to put it, but it's going to put more responsibility on the borrowers. It's going to be kind of you don't you want to try to minimize maybe the amount that you're going to take out in a sense. It's going to be focused a little bit more on trade schools, private financing, whatnot. It's going to get rid of a lot of these, not bailouts is the right word, but to programs to help people that maybe need assistance with the loan repayback and whatnot, right? So it's basically going to because I think that's the part of the biggest hurdles with the loans previously, right? Is there was a lot of ways to kind of maybe it hindered people in their because you couldn't file bankruptcy with it, right? And whatnot. So I think there's a lot of just accountability and responsibility portion of it. um
So you were talking about bankruptcy for student loans, right? How you can't discharge them. So that's always been like I was just laughing. That's like one of my first like rabbit hole moments years ago. Is I'm like, what the heck? Why is this? It seems like such a scam because like I had $100,000 in student loans after college, and I was like, oh man. But I just looked up while you were talking about that, Mark. That I guess as of 2022 to 2024, they've made it easier to meet the undue hardship standard. and 98% of federal student loan cases filed under new guidance were full or partially discharged. But I remember, yeah, that was like the big thing. I had private student loans though too, which were super expensive because I ran out of time. I had a little bit too much fun in college and had to stay maybe a year or two longer than I should have. So I couldn't get any more. I had to go private student loans, and those were super expensive.
Yeah, those are definitely more expensive. One thing that's also interesting with the federal loans is that let's say you do have a job that qualifies for them getting forgiven, be it teacher, first responder, things like that. Um, there's typically two programs that you can like apply for, but you can't do both. You can only choose one.
Oh, okay.
And so it's kind of a catch 22 because there's one program where it like wipes everything clean, which is awesome, but it's super hard to like get the process done. And then there's an easier one where it gets like 10,000 gone, which is pretty easy to go through the process, but you can't do both of them. You can only apply and go through the process on one of them. And so it's very interesting because for folks that have like a lot of loans, it's like, well, $10,000 chunk might be nice, but it may not make a dent if you have $100,000 worth, you know?
Yeah, that was brutal. I didn't realize how much I was taking out when I was that young either too. That's a whole other conversation. If you had like asked me to like, did I understand what that meant? No, I'll tell you when I realized it, when I had to pay it back. I was like, what was I thinking? Why did somebody let me do this?
So with repayments about to start again for millions of folks, or and maybe their payments won't start, but their interest does start to accrue again on August 1st. What tips do you have for folks that have to repay their loans back now?
Me or Mark or both of us?
Well, I think you have the most experience here.
Um, I don't know. I mean, so I'll answer. I guess the way I did it is I cut out everything that I possibly could in order to accelerate that pay down because I knew that we weren't going to be able to qualify for a house or a mortgage without it. So, I mean, we went before, cutting the cord was a big thing. I remember that was it. Like we took out our cable bill and we took out all of these things and we just started piling money onto every single month of student loans until we ended up paying off my student loans about 10 years ago, I think, which seems crazy that it was that long ago. But I remember I was at the firehouse when I wrote the last check. I'll never forget it. I was like, done. Like I'm never paying those people another dollar again. And again, I got an education out of it. It's not a bad experience. I was just, if I were to go back, I would never let my kids do that. I would never let them sign up for $100,000 in debt. And to be fair, my parents told me not to do it. They told me to go to a community college and then go to a university, but I knew everything at 18 years old, and I found out I was very, very wrong, and I should have listened to them. So yeah, but I would say, here's the thing. If we're not cutting those costs out and paying them down now, I know a lot of borrowers that I see that are in their 50s or even close to 60, they're still paying their student loans when most of them have graduated at 21 to 23, let's say. So
Mhm.
I would cut out all unnecessary costs and just start paying that down in chunk money too, right? I mean, it's a big deal, especially for mortgages. It makes a lot of, somebody said, I'm so worried about future generations. That's a big disqualifier for a lot of people. And I know that Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac and everybody's trying to change the way we calculate student loan payments in order to make it more accessible. But I think it's a big concern.
Yeah, so I don't know how much time you guys got left, but we did kind of want to touch on it also. We can maybe dig into it later. But Sarah says I worry so much for the future generations. But Curtis also kind of want to touch on like home ownership, for Gen Z, millennials. So like a lot of, I think I just saw millennials and Gen Z now are off. Home ownership age is 36 to 38 plus compared to prior generations who often
Mhm.
bought in their late 20s to early 30s. And like to Sarah's point, worry for the future generations. But is there a reason you kind of want to touch on that too, Curtis?
Yeah, there is kind of a reason because as I'm getting more into the agent side and folk just normal folks trying to buy a house, I'm meeting with more buyers or potential ones, and a lot of the conversations are, oh, I have to move back home with my parents if I want us to save up. I don't think I'm prepared. And it's better for me to rent so that way I can go out for experiences. I've just been hearing a lot of younger folks just feel like home ownership is just out of their reach.
Tyler, what are you seeing on you're in a high cost of living area also. Like you say, you're a lender. Like what are you seeing on that front?
I agree. I think people are older when they are buying their first home, and I think a lot of it, though, especially with the conversations I've had in the last couple of years, people should start thinking outside of the box when they're looking at their first home. Like I've told multiple firemen, hey, you're young, you're in your 20s, you're not married, you don't have kids, buy a house, rent the rooms out to other firemen. You all have crazy schedules. You're not all always going to be there. It's going to benefit you in the long run. Um, a client I had last week, spoke to her. She is going to have her grandmother move into like a casita or like an ADU, and her grandmother's providing the down payment. She's making the monthly mortgage payments. There's ways to do it. I guess it goes back down to student loans is, do you want to sacrifice now for something that's going to benefit you in the long run? And I think traditionally, up until recent years, you save money, you buy the house on your own. There's no renters, there's no things like that. And I think at least where I live, it's less than like not even like a middle of the road track home. I think we were talking about this is over $1 million easily. And that's crazy to think that you're going to have that big of a mortgage payment, but you have to get creative. I just looked it up because, Curtis, now that you're doing, you're on the real estate side, I always look it up as it's real estate is still the largest shot at building generational wealth.
Hmm.
And it talks about a lot of those. Oh, that's funny. It agrees with me. House hack or starter first. Yeah. That's another thing too. Your first home, I'll get all preachy about this kind of stuff. Your first home is not your forever home. Everybody wants to buy this first house that's dialed in, has this great backyard, awesome kitchen. It's like the first home I bought was a condo in a cool area. We had to do the work ourselves. Nothing crazy, switched out all the toilets, put down new tile, painted the cabinets instead of putting brand new cabinets in, all of those things. And that's probably the biggest thing that I see is people look at Instagram and YouTube all the time and see these
Yeah.
killer houses. It's like, dude, this is your first house. Just get in and use that first house as a stepping stone to the second house, to the third house. And then eventually you can afford your forever home. But those are the two biggest things is think outside the box and remember it's not your forever home. And time in real estate is way easier than timing real estate every single time.
Yeah, I think we know those concepts, but I don't know if the average everyday person does, and kind of resetting those expectations, right? Like when I don't know if you guys know your grandparents, but I know grandparents around here, right? They often, oh, that's just grandma's house. She's lived there her entire life, right? Whereas, so I think when folks think of their forever home their mind is in a spot where once I buy a home, that's our home. And so, of course, that they want it to be nice and have all of the stuff, but not realizing, well, when Grandma bought her home, it was 2 dimes, so it may not be it may not be the same thing for you. And to kind of the starter home, I actually read an article where Gen Z is there's a portion of them that doesn't believe in the starter home.
I don't know if you guys are, if Sarah is like, you guys are going back and forth because you guys are bringing up all the same points. So I think it's great. But like, so Sarah says, I paid, so student loans, I paid mine off 10 years ago, 75K, paid off in a matter of 4 years. I sacrificed everything to get rid of that stupid thing. And the key word is sacrifice, right? So you guys got both bringing up like the sacrifice it takes, and to get into home ownership, or even just getting ahead financially. And a lot of people don't realize that. And even like Martin, Josh, He's like he says, people don't maybe sometimes realize how much it takes to put down on a multifamily. So like they put down only
Huge.
18K for a 500K property. So he said it is possible. Sarah also says NACA is the only real reason I was able to buy a home comfortably because there was no closing costs. I was able to fix certain issues with my home foundations. My interest rate is 2.125 fixed. Okay, I'll read her next one. But Sarah, if you are still there, would you ever sell if you have a 2.125 fixed interest rate? Would you ever sell that property or whatnot? She also says I was able to replace the roof, and that was such a nice peace of mind. But a 2%, it feels like forever home. Where else can I go? And late start well said I think we're going to see a lot more larger homes remodeled to semi-subsidized or subdivided house to have a multi-generation but sense of space, non-conforming ADU. Yeah, I think
100%.
like I think Derek Sherrill, I know Tyler knows him, the ADU guy.
Yep.
That Squin's been talking about it a lot. So a lot of people are the smaller homes, ADUs, whatnot. Even Hawaii's starting to allow, depending on lot size, 2 ADUs or Ohana suites per property.
That's what I was going to say. Ohana suites have been around in forever in Hawaii, right? Like
Yeah, so
a
they're
big thing.
slightly different.
Okay.
I think I don't know exact, but like the Ohana Suites, kind of, I believe it's supposed to be for like a family member, where they can, so it's kind of like it depends who's going to be residing in that
Mm.
attachment or building, right? But it's basically similar to an ADU, but they're gonna start. I don't know if they're gonna start or have, but it's based on the lot size. Now you can do two per lot. Before it was only
Mm.
one. But it still comes down to the permitting. The permitting is still the biggest issue in Hawaii. It just takes forever to get anything moved through the system. Um, but yeah, like I said, I don't know how much time you guys got. I still got time, so if you guys want to stick around, but if you got to bounce, just bounce. But yeah, I think this was a good one. We did talk about, I think the biggest thing, and we always talk about it, is you can go into the big beautiful bill and go down that path and try to really understand it, but at the same time it really comes down to you taking control of your situation and
Mm.
not falling into a lot of the noise out there. And we're talking about like home ownership and whatnot, but I think I talked about it before too. I think so like in Hawaii they have the Hawaiian homestead lands where people get on the wait list and they can basically get these properties leased to them for like, I think it's like $1 for like so many years, right? Basically, so you don't have this housing expense. And I didn't really think about it, but one of my friends who they've always been trying to get on the list and whatnot, but he said the biggest maybe problem in a sense is that a lot of families, when they do get that opportunity to get this property now they just stay there for whatever X number of years, but they're almost looking at it from a standpoint where now I don't have this payment, but I have all this extra money to spend.
Yep.
And instead of where it's kind of, I guess the program is supposed to be designed to where a family takes advantage of not having this payment. Now they're saving all this extra money to go now buy a home, and now they can get out of the Hawaiian homestead, and another family can come in and take advantage of the program. And now they can, all this extra money they should be saving from not having a housing payment. Now they get the down payment. Now they go get a home, and so the
Mm.
cycle is supposed to kind of be more fluent, but what's happening is families are, getting on the property and they're just staying there, right? And instead of getting that next property in a sense, they're kind of, bottlenecking everything, right?
Well, there's no change in like education or habits, right? So then, like they always say with like lottery winners, or I think it may have even been Trump said one time, like if you were to give like X amount of people all $1 million, like all of that money would funnel its way back to those people who had it because there's a lack of education. Yeah, if you don't change your habits, now it's like, oh, now I got 2 grand more a month instead of paying rent. I'm gonna go get a new, like Joe Coy would say, the Toyota Tacoma with the lifted tires, right? and you see the same thing here. I see it in firemen, right? It's the same mentality. It's like, and not a bad thing. It's you have that money coming in every month. You have overtime. Like you could conceivably not spend anymore. Use all that overtime, save a bunch of money, and maybe invest in things to where you retire or close to retirement. You don't have to work as much overtime, but you get in that cycle like anything. Everybody's guilty of it. It's like if you're gonna get some added benefit, but don't change your habits or education, then nothing's going to change. I even notice now, since I'm not in masterminds and things like that, I know for sure I'm not up to date on a lot of things as like this big beautiful bill. I'm sure it's been discussed ad nauseum. I'm sure they have like I know the guy Joseph Fieri for the cost segregation. When this first came out, he was huge. He was going around doing it all of these things. So I think, yeah, like, I mean, what an awesome idea to do it. But if we're not, they don't require any type of homeowner education or anything like that, Mark? When they do that, there's no like added. You would hope they would. I mean, why not change somebody's like, hey, you get this, but you have to attend 5 classes of how to budget, maybe how to save. I don't know anything, because I think we're not taught any of this.
Yeah.
That's the thing. This is not conventional education. Nobody, maybe people who grow up wealthy, like that's why they pass this on to their kids. This is what we did, X, Y, and Z. Like, I'll shut up. But one thing I noticed, I wanted to buy a boat when I was in my early 20s and making a ton of money in sales. I was like, I'm buying a boat and I'm going to get a 2% loan. And this, I'll never forget this guy who had a ton of money. He looked at me, he goes, "You dummy, you don't ever finance a boat." And I was like, well, why not? And he's like, no, he's like, you buy a boat when you can afford a boat. And I was like, oh man, you just killed my dream.
Well,
But in his mind, there was no way you should ever finance something like that.
but to that, I don't know if I saw it on social media, but someone might have been talking about that. Like they would rather, like, there's so much that people don't realize. Like you're saying, buy a boat, and it sounds great. How often do you actually use it?
Exactly.
But then it's also like how much upkeep and maintenance is there?
A lot.
I'd rather find a friend that had or whatever, or even rent
gas, man.
Yeah, or rent a boat for the weekend or whatnot. And I think that's the thing people don't realize. Even with home ownership, it does have a lot of benefits. It is great, but people don't realize how much cost goes into it, like upkeep. And I actually had this discussion yesterday because we were doing the yard at my house for my son's like, why don't we just pay? We can afford to pay someone. And I'm like, yes, but part of it is I want you to have to do some work, but I also want you to see that there is other things that have to be done around the house, whether it's cleaning, whether there's yard. But I told him too. I said, if you can figure out a way to make whatever it may be $150 or $200 for the yard service. I keep telling him to let's if you want to draw, let's make designs to put on shirts and or whatever. But if you can figure out a way just to make $200 a month, then now we'll use that and we'll pay a yard man or yard service, right? So I'm trying to, but like I said, he's like, why don't we just pay? And I'm like, yeah, but so part of it is I'm trying to get him to do stuff, but
yeah. Later this week, I might have this opportunity. I'm waiting to hear back from their office, but I might be helping with a financial reality fair for youth. So basically, seventh graders through seniors in high school to teach them how to budget, how to take care of like their money, what the real world is kind of like. I'm intrigued to see if they let me help with that. It's being hosted by local community, the college, and so if they do let me help, I'll be posting more about how that goes.
I think that's huge. I think that's something that we drastically need to increase, especially at those age groups, because like if the first thing on college campuses too is like all those credit card applications, all of those things, like, hey, let's show you what you can do. We even made our kids, when they do lemonade stands, we're probably terrible parents, but whenever they say, oh, I made $100, I'm like, okay, well, hey, guess what? The supplies were 40, so fork that over. And then I didn't do the second part. I told my kid, and my driveway rent is X amount of dollars per hour. But we did tell them, like, hey, you have costs, so we're going to remove the cost, because just little lessons like that. I never thought about stuff like that as a kid. But okay, you your revenue was 100, your cost of goods was 40, so your profit was $60, and that's what you actually made. But that's cool, Curtis. I think it's huge. And at my school in high school, we had one class that this guy taught, and it was about all of this stuff, and it was kind of like a test period, and I don't think they brought him back, and I thought it was one of the most interesting classes we had, because it was like, okay, well, like I didn't know any of this stuff, like the way he broke stuff down. It was just day-to-day finances, yearly finances, like all of those things, that what a 401k was, all of these things I had no clue about.
See, Sarah, perfect comment for all of this. So she says to get the NACA loan, they forced financial education, transparency, and
go.
accountability. Before I could get approved, they sat down with me monthly to make sure I could afford a full mortgage payment and budget. For me, that was not hard. They were generally patting me on the back, but I think most people who go through it are resentful of the microscope treatment. Yeah, very true.
Yeah, but I mean, they may not like it, but I think it's beneficial, because I see a lot of people who, I've done a lot of loans at this point, and people who do have to go through there's like HUD home ownership classes too. They're better off in the long run. Whereas a lot of people who don't want to dedicate time, I get calls every single year, no matter what, for supplemental property taxes. Hey, I have this supplemental property tax bill. I have to pay this. I said, yeah, we discussed it like 3 or 4 times. I told you this was going to happen. I told you to save the money that you get back. You're going to get an escrow refund, because the lender's collecting on old property taxes versus new property taxes, and that money is not your money. Put it in a bank account. When you get the supplemental property tax bill, you pay it off, and there's nothing that you have to worry about. How many people do you think take that check and actually save it? Very few, like maybe 1 out of 100, but they weren't listening to me, is my point. It's like, I've done this so long, I've seen this over and over, I'm trying to educate you on what to do, and very few, like I said, I can remember on one hand how many people, because I get the same phone call, dude, I don't have $6,000 to pay my property taxes. Yeah, you did have that $6,000, you decided to spend it.
Well, before we sign off, Sarah, thanks for tuning in. You've been a great source of information. If you have any social media links or anything, and you want people to reach out to you or follow you, if you can, I think you'll be able to put it in the comment section. So Sarah, if you're still there, maybe put in, maybe I can connect with you also and see if you want to get on the channel or do some streams with us or whatnot and see what your background is about. But Tyler, I got these, I've been connecting with these the Boise real estate agents and whatnot, so trying to get
Nice.
them on also. But to your point too, it is funny. So we just finished the Cobra Kai series. My son, I watched it before, but my son, I don't know, for whatever reason, just always didn't want to watch it. But then for some reason, we got him to watch Karate Kid. So then now so we watched the whole Cobra Kai series, and at the end, the final episode, Johnny Lawrence was sitting at the table, right? I think, and he was like, "Hey, is this true?" And he says, "Is this real? Did you ever get one?" And he goes, "I got this property tax bill in the mail," and Daniel LaRusso or Ralph Macchio was like, "Yeah, and Johnny Lawrence was like, do I gotta pay these taxes?" He's like, "I paid taxes when I bought the property or whatever." And he's like, "Yes, you have to pay these property taxes. I told you about this." And it's exactly to your point, right?
100%.
There's always these expenses that come up. So, So if you guys got anything else you want to say, anything you're working on, like I said, I put your guys' links in the channel or in the chat so that people can reach out to you, subscribe. I will be back tomorrow with actually I'll be back with Dylan tomorrow, who is a commercial real estate agent and investor. But Lauren Elaine is going to be back on. Lauren Elaine she's from Boise, or Idaho, I believe. She was in Florida. She has a property in Kauai, but she had an equestrian farm in Florida, which she just sold, and she's now looking at transitioning into a boutique hotel in Idaho. So I think she has
really?
I think she bought a 5-unit property and they're converting it to a boutique hotel. So we're gonna kind of dig into that tomorrow. So, but she's been traveling and all that, so it's hard to get her on. But so we're gonna dig into that tomorrow. I guess final question. Oh wait, there's 2.
Nah.
Okay. Well, Flavio has a last question for you,
Yeah,
Curtis.
there you go.
Are you driving with me to Vegas?
No, man, dude, I'm so uncomfortable just on the flight to down there. My knees would be hurting if I got in that car ride, man. I am a-okay. I'm good off that.
See, that's why I said Curtis would be very uncomfortable in Japan. It's definitely not built for him. Right? But well, we could be, yeah. So hopefully.
Yep, I definitely am. So that's all good.
All right. Well, thanks
There's the
everyone for.
person that's going to forget their supplemental property taxes. Forrest Green will forget his supplemental property taxes. 100%.
All right. Thanks everyone. I'll see everyone tomorrow, same time, and we'll get Tyler and Curtis on again in a few weeks. All right. Thanks everyone.